Welcome to A Shot of Ag. My name is Rob Sharkey. I'm your host. Sometimes in agriculture, if you come from a strong ag family, you feel like you have to live up to it. Well, our next guest did just that. John King from Ankeny, Iowa.
Yeah, thanks for having me today.
You came from Ankeny?
Yeah, this morning.
How long of a drive is that?
Like 3 hours and 45 minutes, maybe 4 with a few stops on the way, a couple Casey's on the way.
It's a home of Casey's.
It is the home of Casey's.
Yeah.
Yep, formerly known as that.
And for a while there, it was like the fastest growing city in the whole country, wasn't it?
Yeah, about third fastest growing city. Yeah, it's a good town. You know, we got a lot of agriculture there. We've got the John Deere factory, so yeah, it's a great spot.
And if you drive up there, it's like you see these massive buildings. You have both Facebook and Amazon, right?
Yeah, there's like 6 or 7 different distribution buildings for Amazon there. And then actually it's in Altoona on your drive in. That's where they've got like a lot of the new servers, like all these mega server rooms and whatnot.
They look like compounds.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
And when I say big buildings, you're talking like 80-acre buildings.
Yeah, they're huge.
All right, you are the president of Michlig Ag Solutions. Now, what do y'all do there?
So Michlig Ag Solutions, I would say the basis of what we do is it's a consulting business. It's either a business-to-business consulting, or we do a lot of grower risk consulting as well, risk management consulting. So work with them on crop insurance, work with them on brokerage, and then a lot of what we do too, part of that business is we have a daily information services called ground level dispatch that we send out twice a day and then once on the weekend for kind of a weekend read.
Okay. Especially in central Illinois, the Michlig name is pretty familiar.
Yep.
Michlig Agri Center. I think I still have a few of these cups. They do break if you drop them. I can attest to that.
So, I mean, the reason I had to bring this today was, and they asked me to bring something sentimental. And I was thinking, they were talking to my wife last night. I was like, I'm not sure what I can bring, that's small enough that's going to fit on the desk, that's, not looking clunky. And I sat there and thought about it a little bit. And, like this coffee mug alone is probably 20 years old. And my wife and I have moved about 4 or 5 different times.
Not looking bad, though.
It's survived all the moves, all the kids, anything else in my life. And I'm like, you know what? It's a good representation that the Michlig name always stands. So I thought,
is this the last one?
No, I think my dad's got a couple at his house, but it's the last one that I have in my house. And when I was walking over here from the parking lot, I think that's the tightest I've ever held it in my life, because I didn't want to lose it this close to the studio.
So your dad is
Don
King.
Yep.
And your uncle is
Harry McCune.
Yep. Okay, well, who is the Michlig?
So the Michlig is my mother's dad. So Joe Michlig started the business in the 80s there in Manlius, and it was really just started as a feed mill and a little local place to deliver grain and get feed. And then we expanded it in the 90s to where it was full service chemical. We built the facility on Route 40. And then in the mid 90s, my dad bought the business from my grandfather. And instead of changing the name, it already had local value with the name that it was. He maintained the name and then grew the Michlig Agri Center brand really throughout central Illinois there until we sold the business in 2011 to Nutrien, and then maintained the grain business, and sold the grain business in 2020, and then we're back in it today. So it's great to have the legacy still going.
What goes around comes around.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's hard to get rid of us.
So did you ever work here at Michlig Agri Center?
I worked there from as young as I can remember to be. You're right. So growing up in the business, I worked there a lot from I don't know if it's legal today, but from age 12 on.
They kind of frown on it nowadays.
I always think
hauling anhydrous tanks when you can't look over the dash.
I always think my dad had a couple good years where he got a good deal there. But from age 12 on, I worked there every summer, and it was always me and a few of my friends. And we did anything from cleaning elevators, cleaning bins out. We waxed a lot of equipment in those days. You go find a shade tree there in Manlius, and you go park the floater under it and wax it, and be waxing it with a few of the other guys, or clean out boot pits. But that's what we did all summer, and it was funny. I swear, all the guys waited all year long for the summer to-do list as soon as me and all my friends got out of high school, for the summer. And then the to-do list was ready of all the stuff they really didn't want to do.
Like rotten soybeans in the
Rotten
boots and- yeah.
soybeans, the feed mill basement, cleaning out the bin site, where we had all
Not
the
even
government
around it.
bigs.
I can smell it right
Oh,
now.
man. Well, down by you, Broadmoor, that was always a highlight of the summer.
That was the, I think you guys bought that elevator off of Moses.
Well, I can tell you that it held some water in the basement every once in a while, so we had to part the sea there.
Okay, where'd you go to college?
So I went to college for undergrad. I did it at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois, and I got a degree in accounting, in entrepreneurship, and then I played baseball there. So
Oh, what position?
I was a relief pitcher, so it's kind of like a setup guy. I was
So you
left-handed.
You just hung around and
Pretty
like
much.
If you just come in at the end and throw 3 strikes and then you were the hero.
Yeah, it was like always, I was left-handed, so anytime you'd get a left-handed guy up there, you'd have a guy or two on, it always felt like that was when I would come in, I'd get the one out, then here I come trouncing off. So, it was a little bit of a specialty situation, but no, it was great. It was a great time. Had a lifelong friends, and luckily enough to meet my wife there, and now we're blessed. We got 3 beautiful kids.
Did you meet her at a bar?
Maybe. I'm sure that it was somewhere like that. She was in a couple of my classes. I might have needed some help at times, and she helped me through it, so it worked out good.
Bar.
Yeah.
Bar. Where'd you go then?
So after that, that's when I moved on and began kind of my journey through the wholesale fertilizer business, and started with United Suppliers and Ames. And then went on to work for a company that was a manufacturer in Kansas City, and then I went on and worked in another manufacturing business that was more global. They had a global presence, and we were an import business both the East Coast and then through the Gulf, and
Gulf of what?
Gulf of America, New Orleans. So and then
Don't email me. I don't care. I don't care.
So did that, and then and during that time, I just still wanted to get back to retail. So I had a good company. I went to work for retail for a little bit before I started the business, and then all through the time, I thought it was important. I got my MBA from Creighton, and decided to, it's unique now. You can get your MBA online. I did my whole MBA process. I never even stepped foot on campus the whole time, so it was kind of a unique deal.
Is it legit or just?
I got a piece of paper for it. I had to pay the bill for it, so I know that they still like that part of it for sure.
Well, you're going through college and all that. Did you know what you wanted to do at the end, or you
No.
just?
So I got a degree in accounting, and I always liked numbers to some degree, and I knew there was always a good chance to go back and be part of the grain business, and I definitely thought that was an opportunity. The only thing I would say about our grain business is we had like really good employees. So it wasn't that there wasn't a spot for me. It's just like we had great employees that were doing a great job. There wasn't a huge need for me to come back and do it without us really expanding the business. So I always, I wanted to learn more about the agronomy side of the business, and the wholesale fertilizer business was something interesting. I found out in college I didn't want to be an accountant, a CPA. I liked accounting, but I didn't really want to do people's taxes and audits and stuff like that. So
You like numbers, you just didn't want to commit.
that's 100% accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
So it worked out good. The wholesale fertilizer business is a very dynamic business. It's like commodity grains, and I enjoyed commodity grain business, but it's an unhedgeable, unprotected market, right? So like that
And it's expensive as heck.
it is expensive. It eats up a lot of cash.
My gosh. I mean, it is like if you're growing corn, soybeans, it's the #1 expense.
Yeah, it is for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to say it's going to get better, but as in the environment we're in today, we don't produce much of it. We produce a lot of nitrogen here, but there's a lot of stuff we still import. So we'll see how it goes. It's not getting cheaper anytime soon, unfortunately.
That is not the answer that I wanted to hear.
Ammonia is going to get cheaper the next summer, so that's good.
Okay, that helps a little bit. Well, a lot of the dry fertilizer, like the potash, and that comes from people that don't like us right now.
Yeah, pretty much everybody.
Russia and Canada, right?
Russia and Canada, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, like the whole potash market's really interesting because 80% of our imports come from Canada. The other, we produce a very little amount domestically, but the remainder of it all comes from Russia or Belarus. So
Yeah.
we
We don't really need it anyway.
Yeah,
Potash.
It's
It's overrated.
that's right. Hey, I mean, it's whatever works, I guess.
Yeah. It as a farmer, that is the one thing that I'm really worried about is what's going to happen to that potash market.
Yeah. You know what's crazy, when you think about the potash market right now too, I'd call it 6 months ago, we were within $40 of the 15-year low for potash prices.
We were?
Yes. Yep. New Orleans barges were trading within $40 of the all-time low.
Huh. Still too much.
Yeah. Well, the problem is your phosphate prices had never reset in the last 3 years. They're still extremely high. So the blended prices were all kind of really hurting everything.
Yeah.
But, going forward, it's really hard to know what will happen. But, I think the administration they'll probably look at everything. To say that potash isn't something that ends up coming on the list of things that don't get tariffed. Again, since we domestically, we just don't produce any. It's a raw mineral you have to mine. So.
Yeah, well, we should get some mines.
Well, that might require us to have new territory then.
We got the Gulf of America. I mean, we could. All right. So, when did you go to the Michlig Ag? What are you doing now?
So with Michlig Ag Solutions, I started
Yes.
that company in May of 24, and in a lot of my experiences, both on the fertilizer side and in my previous retail job, had a lot of experience around specialty products. So like nutritionals, adjuvants, all this other stuff. Just saw that there was a big need in the market to help both ag retailers and farmers with those things primarily. So like what we do through ground level dispatch is not only do we write daily comments about the grain markets and trying to keep people up to date.
What is that? Ground level dispatch.
Ground level dispatch is our it's not proprietary, but it's our market intelligence services. So it's on Substack. Anybody can subscribe. What we try to
I
do.
don't even know what a Substack is.
It's like a place where you can send emails and.
It's the internet.
It's the internet. It's the
Okay.
internet.
Just say the internet.
It's a blog place.
Okay.
So
On the internet.
on the internet.
I don't know why you're making this so difficult.
So our goal is just to provide good information so our daily comments, the goal of them is to be read within 3 to 4 minutes on the grain markets. Mm-hmm. And then every Friday we have something called Fert Friday, and we put out a little bit of a section on fertilizer. And then once a month we do what I would call is like a deep dive on the input markets. And we call it our Sunday reads. So we put them out about 7 a.m. every Sunday morning. And so we'll do something that's either once a month on fertilizer, once a month that's kind of a grain editorial. And then we also try to bring just different things to people's eyes. Like we wrote about John Deere's financials and then their outlook that they gave their investors the other day. We've wrote about boron, and the importance for your crop nutrition process. I think we're working on an article that talks about, and I don't know this 100% because I have an employee that does a lot of this. He's a lot smarter than me.
we go.
But I think it's a company called Boa Safra that works with on new land purchases and the ability to write off some of the investment in order to get your fertility up to snuff.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
So just different things that I would say are, in a farmer's average day, they got a lot going on, right? They got employees they got to manage, they got, equipment, all this stuff. So it's trying to bring stuff that maybe is not as relevant or not written about as much to just bring some light to it.
Yeah, and I don't want to read it.
I don't blame you.
I'm working on my planner, I'm working on whatever, and then I despise marketing my grain.
Yeah.
I've raised that crop, and now I've got it in the bin, and I don't want to sell it for what they're offering me. Some of these people that get so immersed in these markets, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just tell, what I do is I call your cousin.
Donna.
I say, when do I sell my corn?
Yeah, that's
and
always.
She said last week.
Yeah, that's always the best. Well, and she's brutally honest, so she's going to tell you exactly what you need.
Well, that's what I want. I literally just, all right, look at this, this, and this, and don't be stupid.
Well, and that's part of what we do as well. So ground level dispatch for us is really a function of what we do for our grower risk management consulting. And that's, we're trying to help, again, people that don't like marketing.
Yeah.
They don't like marketing.
Do you got to subscribe to that thing?
Yeah, it's on Substack on the internet for, we charge like $250 a year for it.
$250 a year.
Mm-hmm.
What does Netflix cost?
Less than that.
Okay. Well, you think you're better than Netflix?
Possibly. Maybe it might be the same. I don't know. It's less than YouTube TV. I know that.
I don't know. Emily pays the bills.
Yeah, I
so,
know.
Yeah.
I know.
But they get that Ozarks on there. That was a good show.
It's a good show.
Yeah, it's really.
They got a few good ones on
That's
there.
worth 250 right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Where were we? So you're just looking for mainly the row crop farmers.
Yeah, I would say today our focus is corn, soy, wheat, and then we do some consulting with other businesses. And again, it's more, I would say, around either their, like if they need grain merchandising assistance.
Yeah.
I have an employee who's his name's Reese Strength, and that's really his specialty is the grain side. I'm kind of like you. I don't know if I'm really good at the grain stuff. And then a lot of what I'll do is around the specialty product side of helping people, plan strategy around, what should they be selling to their farmers? What's their passion of? What they want to, how do they want to build that market for themselves? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of what I focus on.
And this company's based out of Ankeny?
It is based out of Ankeny, yep.
So it's curious to me because the Michlig name in Central Illinois is well known and carries respect. Now you just took it out to Ankeny. Is that working for you?
I would say it's been good. Mm-hmm. I would say, we lived in Ankeny, so it's kind of like, we were already there. So that's how it ended up in Ankeny. But like even for us, we had a grower meeting back at Dad's shop here 4 weeks ago. So I do have an employee that works for us out of Central Illinois too, that works with farmers on the same stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't invited to that
I know.
meeting.
Well, Donna was in control of all the lists, so I blame her.
It's fine. It's fine. Hey, we can move on. It's fine. I didn't, kind of takes me back to the 5th grade when Sean Boyer didn't invite me to his birthday party. All the other boys in my class went. I was the only one that he didn't invite.
Well, I knew I was going to be seeing you in a couple weeks, so.
It hurts. I'm just saying. If you ever have a kid that has a birthday party in grade school, maybe make sure you invites everybody or just a few. Kind of like your meetings.
Kind of like my meetings.
Yeah.
We'll have another one.
No, I don't care. All right. I don't even know where to go now. What do you think some of the struggles that farmers are going to see here in the next little bit?
Well, I mean, I would say the obvious one, obviously, is tariffs, right? Because it's so unpredicted. It's hard to plan for. I think today, the one thing that from a corn standpoint that they've got a positive standpoint on is, you got the crop insurance price that's higher than a year ago. So, I mean, there's a little bit of safety there. But I think the tariffs thing is, it's definitely, it's hard to plan for. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of different things going on out there too, with depending on the biofuels requirements and what that may have to do for bean oil consumption and on down the line. I think those are things that are still moving in the positive light. I think the administration is for the farmer. I don't think they're going to let the farmer fail. I would say one thing the tariffs on certain goods, especially like we talked about with potash fertilizer, it's a scarce resource and we don't have any of it. Yeah. So like those are things to me, it's, from a free trade standpoint that it's not really doing us any good. So to figure out maybe, see some of that change as we go down the line here to make sure that it's a little bit more competitive for our customers is for sure it would be a good thing. The other thing too is obviously interest rates they're still where they're at. I don't know if that changes. We'll kind of see how that goes, but everything's a little tighter than obviously it was a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. I insured my crop for 90% this year, which we've never been able to do before. It was an emotional decision for me. It's because when I was like in the 90s and even just the first few years in the 2000s, you went to these meetings with all the weather people. Yep. They always talked about the year 2025. They said 2025 year is it's a 71 cycle drought or something like that. So it's like the bad drought. It's coming in 2025. Then they stopped talking about it because I assume like maybe it's getting close enough and they don't want to be tied to it or whatever. But I always remember, and they pounded that in our head, 2025 was going to be the bad drought. So that's why I insured it for 90%. Not because of fact or numbers, it's because of true emotion. That, I am afraid, was what most farmers do with their decision. They're emotional.
Yeah, and I would say it's very true. And I think that's like the exciting thing about what we try to do all the time is take the emotion out of it. Supply fact, provide them good guidance on, with what we're doing with our risk management, strategies, and really provide a lot of that insight onto why things are doing what they are and what the outlook needs to be. I mean, it's kind of like even right now, the prices aren't great, but, majority of the time we're going to see seasonal highs in the summer. Those are still out ahead of us. Every year is different, but, those are the things I think about today. And, there's still a lot of good opportunity. It's like, I think this morning beans were getting hammered, but,
Thanks, I hadn't looked yet.
yeah, well, a little tough. But, when you look out at it from a fundamental standpoint, we look to new crop and the soybean stocks are going to be extremely low. So at some point things will get better. I think just where we're at right now with all the new news on tariffs, like people are panicking a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe could be your new tagline. Michlig Ag Solutions, we're void of emotion.
That's right. Absolutely.
That's what your customers want, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
What do you think is some of the mistakes that the farmers do when it comes to not just selling crops, but the input side too?
On the input side, I think the biggest thing is, in rural America, there's less and less people that are, I would consider, the trusted advisor. And, most people that you have in rural America that are the trusted advisor are few and far between. I think the biggest thing that I see a lot of times, or I would recommend my people a lot of times, is find people that add value to operation. Price is one thing and it's an important thing, don't get me wrong, but like people that add value to your operation is an important thing that I think is something that everybody should find. For us, we've got a good seed dealer back home, and I don't know if we could ever buy seed from anybody else other than him. At least that's what Harry says.
Oh, is his name Michlig?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah. So, but like at the end of the day, he adds value to Harry's operation. And for that, that's the way we continue to look and run our business. And, I look at it for our business as well. That's our goal. We want to provide value to our customers. We're going to charge a fee for the value that we think we can provide. And, that's what we want to do. And I think in rural America, long term, there's a lot of things that have come out over the past, call it, decade with, whether it's input buying at a discount or online buying, whatever it may be. The problem long term is in rural America, you still need those people that have influence and provide value. And I think in the last 3 or 4 years, my positions I've seen where those people probably shine more than ever now because they are adding value, and there's just less of them. So they're in higher demand.
And I think the basics, just getting to the basics. I can't tell you. It's multiple emails a day we get from microbial companies that want, hey, this would be a great guest on your podcast or whatever. We're seeing a 3 to 5 bushel bump by spraying this go-go juice on it and everything. And I'm not saying they don't work, but I know what does.
Yeah.
I know potash. I need that. This other stuff, hey, some years it's worked great, other years it didn't.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, for me, it's back to the trusted advisor. Like who's going to be able to really help weed through the noise of what that market is, and then also have a touch on enough acres that are using stuff like that to provide and say like, hey, this is a product that I stamp certified, certified fresh as a good product that you should consider, and this is why. Because otherwise, I think, again, there's just too much marketing, branding, internet jargon with this one product will, increase your yield by 30 bushel and you can cut all this other stuff. When in the reality is, for some of these people, even as landowners, you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. That eventually someday down the road creates a problem. So, I think that's the biggest thing I'd say is like there's people in rural America that are good people that are, that have really put a lot of time into understanding their market. Like those people are the people I would lean on, especially from the input side. I think the grain market in general, there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions. You have to find people.
What?
Yeah. You have to find people that, one, you like to have a conversation with that can really kind of fits your style. And you got to act on some recommendations every once in a while.
Yeah, your grain people have to either be boring or mean.
Yes.
Because the show ponies, yeah. If people want to find out more about or ask you a question at Michlig Ag Solutions, where do they go?
I would say just go to www.michligag.com and get a hold of us.
Okay, and it's Mitch. Why don't you say Michlig?
Michlig, I don't know. I mean, it's just pronounced Michlig, I guess.
Who made that decision?
Somebody a lot older than me.
Yeah. We had Donna, your cousin, on the show here. That's been a while ago.
Yeah.
She did a really good job.
I know. I'll never hold up to her standards. You probably should have her back.
First of all, no one was assuming that you did as good as she did. If I could only hear the control room right now. No, I think it's interesting. When you have a name, like the King name and what he's built, it's hard to reach up to that level, but you're doing a great job at it. So,
No,
yeah.
I think the fun thing for me is, it is about what our family's done, and again, it's back to rural
Yeah.
America.
Yep.
And I think that's what we want to stay focused on.
Well, you're doing a fantastic job.
thank
John
you.
King, thank you very much. Everybody else, we'll catch you next time. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to explore more of our local content. You can connect with us on our social media platforms, visit our website, or download and watch the free PBS app. We can't wait to see you next time on A Shot of Ag.